Welcome back to Whispers in the Dark, brought to you by Dark Dial Studios, the only place where your next breath might just be your last, if you're listening closely enough. We would also like to give a big thanks to our new audio engineer, Travis Killiman, for stitching this episode together after our unfortunate parting with the last week's engineer. We won't say what happened, just know that the frosting never quite came out of the equipment. Travis, welcome aboard. Try not to read any books you find laying around the studio. Tonight's tale, a sweet little nightmare we pulled from the shadows. It's called The Devourer's Delight. Settle in, keep your hands clean, and whatever you do, don't eat the cake. Hello, and welcome back, traveler. You found your way once more into this secret library where the shelves breathe softly and the dust never settles. There are stories here that wear beauty like perfume, sweet, strong, and dangerous. And tonight, I'll show you one of them. It's called The Devourer's Delight, a tale of hunger dressed as glamour, of sweetness masking rot. Be careful how deep you bite. Jenny was, by all outward appearances, an average pretty woman, with soft blonde hair and a pleasant face. She wasn't too big or too small, and anyone else might have seen her as perfectly charming. Yet Jenny never saw herself that way. She was a ghost in her own life, blending into the background unnoticed unless she made an effort to be seen. And even then, she believed the attention was fleeting and undeserved. But Jenny noticed others. She noticed everything. Her obsession with beauty had become something else, something consuming. She began following women she deemed beautiful, not in conversation, but from a distance. She would sit in the coffee shops and watch them laugh with friends, observe the way they crossed their legs and the way their hair caught the sunlight. She studied them like art pieces behind glass. Her phone's gallery was full, not of selfies, but candid shots of strangers she thought were perfect. In the park, at the market, at the library, she watched them all. It wasn't hate. It wasn't longing, fascination, a painful kind of love. She imagined what it might feel like to live in their skin, to wear their faces, to be the woman who turned heads when she entered a room. She wasn't cruel, she was just tired of feeling like a cracked mirror in a world full of portraits. It was one of those restless afternoons, stomach hollow and spirit worn thin, that Jenny's life took a turn she'd never expected. It was raining when Jenny ducked into the thrift store, the kind of soft gray drizzle that made the world feel heavier than it should be. She had wandered in for no reason, just one of those afternoons where the house felt too small and the mirrors too honest. The store was quiet, the air tingled with the smell of old paper and cinnamon potpourri. Jenny drifted past the dusty porcelain dolls and the rack's mismatched clothes, until she found herself in the farthest corner, where a single shelf sagged under the weight of forgotten cookbooks. And that's where she saw it. A thick volume, bound in soft rose-covered velvet, its spine unmarked, the cover embossed with a swirling golden design. Her fingers tingled when she touched it. The title was embossed faintly in gold above the swirling design. The Devourer's Delight. Just a single line on the first page, written in a long, looping hand. To become the beauty you see in others, you must consume what others never would. Jenny's stomach fluttered as she flipped through the pages. They were filled with elegant drawings of cakes, towering, pastel, enchanting. She lingered only for a moment before taking the book home, feeling an inexplicable sense of purpose with it clutched tightly to her chest. She purchased the book without hesitation, drawn to it as if it had been waiting for her. That evening, in the quiet of her kitchen, she thumbed through the worn pages, pausing when she reached the recipe titled Radiant Rainbow Layer Cake. The illustration showed 7 perfect layers, each a rich, vibrant color crowned with a gleaming white icing that seemed to glow faintly. In the margin, a note was written in the same looping script. Gives the skin a radiant sheen. Results may vary. Jenny smirked. It was a kind of whimsical promise only a vintage cookbook would dare include, but something about it struck her. Something hopeful. Something possible. The instructions were simple. Flour, sugar, eggs, almond extract. Nothing hadn't used before. She already had everything she needed in her pantry. There was nothing unusual about the recipe itself. At least, not on the surface. As she slid the cakes into the oven, the entire kitchen filled with a scent she could only describe as warm. The colors peeked through the oven window like stained glass. She pulled up a stool and sat before it, watching each layer rise and settle, captivated by the slow bloom of color. When it was done, she let it cool, running her finger across the icing as she admired the beauty of it. It was almost too perfect to cut. Almost. She sliced a piece thin at first, and brought it to her lips. The moment the cake touched her tongue, everything else fell away. It tasted like the way love felt in childhood dreams, soft, sweet, and endless. Her eyes welled up. She laughed aloud, alone in her kitchen, suddenly drunk on sugar and something else she couldn't name. She couldn't stop at just one slice. That night, when she caught her reflection in the hallway mirror, something subtle had shifted. Her skin looked brighter, her features softer, smoother. She leaned in, blinking slowly, trying to place the change. Was it the shift of the glass, a trick of the light, or had something truly changed? It was still her, but somehow it was a better version. Or so she thought. By the third day, people were noticing. It started small. An extra long glance from the barista, a compliment from a woman at the dry cleaners, a neighbor pausing mid-step to say, "You look really well today." Jenny glowed beneath the attention, feigning surprise even as the warmth of it pooled behind her ribs. The mirror showed the same. Her skin had taken a subtle glow, like sunlight diffused through honey. The lines around her mouth and eyes had softened. Her hair, always a little flat and colorless, now shimmered with volume. And her eyes, those tired, unsure eyes, seemed brighter and clearer. Her husband noticed too. "You look amazing lately," he said one night as she brushed her hair in front of the bedroom mirror. He came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. "Did you do something different?" Jenny smiled. "Just taking better care of myself." They kissed like they hadn't in years. His hands slid down her stomach, tracing the lines at her waist with slow, purposeful hunger. His lips lingered at her neck, then along her collarbone, igniting a trail of fire in his wake. She grasped softly, her body pressing back into his, craving more. She let herself fall into him like a slice of cake melting on the tongue, warm, rich, and sweet. And for a little while, she forgot about everything else. But as his hands lingered in her waist, a sudden pinch bloomed at her side, sharp, tender, almost like a cramp. She flinched just slightly, unsure if it was from tension or something deeper beneath the skin. The next morning, she baked the cake again. It became a routine, a ritual. Every morning, she baked it fresh. Every evening, she finished the last slice. She told herself it was just a treat, a harmless indulgence. But with each bite, something inside her stirred and tightened, like a string being pulled from within, a hunger she couldn't quite name. She stopped watching women. She didn't need to. She had become the woman others wanted to watch. But the glow had a cost. Sometimes her stomach ached in the middle of the night. Sometimes she'd wake drenched in sweat, heart pounding, her throat bone dry. Her limbs felt heavier, as if gravity had doubled its pull on her alone. And always, always there was the hunger that whispered more. Jenny was avoiding mirrors. She had begun avoiding them without even meaning to. It started with skipping her reflection in the windows, then covering the hallway mirror with a towel. What had once been a thrilling, radiant glow was now something unstable, On some days her skin gleamed like polished ivory, on others she looked waxy and swollen, like a mannequin left too long in the sun, but she could still see it in her eyes. People stared, admired, complimented her radiant glow. Even when her legs began to ache, even when she felt her knees grind under her growing weight, even when at night she caught her profile and didn't recognize the heavy face staring back, she baked and ate. She baked and ate more. The cake was always perfect. It never failed, never flattened, never burned. The layers sparkled as though it lit from within, and the frosting always cool and smooth, like whipped silk. She no longer used plates. She ate from the counter. She licked the icing from her fingers, from the knife, from the bowl. She woke up in the morning, wheezing from the weight on her chest, and found a smear of frosting in her hair. Jenny laughed quietly, staring at the ceiling. Later the same day, she caught her husband, watching her as he stood at the stove, not lovingly, not admiringly, cautiously. "What?" she asked. He opened his mouth and closed it again. Finally, "You've been different lately," he said. "I told you," she said, forcing a smile. "It's the cake." Later that night, she woke to hunger like a storm inside her. She stumbled to the kitchen in her nightgown, too weak to turn on the light, and shoved her hands into the cake she'd made earlier that evening, the second one of the day. She didn't slice it, she didn't sit, she stood there, hunched over the counter, devouring handful after handful, crumbs falling down her chest, frosting smeared across her cheeks. And that's when the light came on. Her husband stood in the doorway, staring at her. She froze, cake still in hand, her mouth open, breathing heavy through her nose. The icing on her face, her nightgown, her hair. She was shaking. "I couldn't stop," she whispered. He took a step forward, then stopped, because something was wrong with her skin. It wasn't just frosting. It was stretched, puffy. Her neck had thickened. Her arm bulged with soft, unnatural weight. Her eyes were sunken and red. The illusion had cracked just enough for him to see the truth through it. "I didn't mean," Jenny started, but her voice caught. Her throat was tight. She stopped the cake and collapsed to the floor, sobbing, the hunger still curling inside her like a second heartbeat. "I can't eat anymore," she said. "I can't." And she meant it. But the hunger didn't care. Jenny couldn't move. Her body ached in ways she didn't understand. Her limbs throbbed with every pulse. The air felt thick, as if sweatness of the cake had settled in the walls of the house. She had baked again that morning, even though the smell now made her stomach churn, even though each bite brought more pain than pleasure. She told herself it was the last time. She told herself that every time. But the hunger always returned, louder than reason, stronger than resolve. Her hands trembled at her sides as she lay propped on the couch, half covered in a blanket, sweat-drenched and dizzy. But the hunger, it growled, like something alive inside her. Her husband had grown more worried by the day. He tried to speak up, tried to understand, but Jenny brushed him off with brittle smiles and empty reassurances. He'd seen her hunched over the counter at the night, seen the frosting smeared across her lips in the morning. He knew something was wrong, but nothing he said could reach her through her fog of sugar and obsession. Once she saw him standing in the hallways just staring at the cookbook. The velvet cover was still pristine. The gold lettering glowed faintly. The Devourer's Delight. She had started avoiding it, but somehow it was always open on the kitchen counter. By evening, Jenny could barely breathe. Her skin felt stretched, as if her body had outgrown it. Her joints popped when she shifted. Her face was unrecognizable, bloated, slick with sweat, eyes wide with panic. She would whisper to herself in the dark, "No more, please, no more." And then she felt it, something shift inside. A snap, a twist. She screamed, And then she felt it, something shift inside, a snap, a twist. Her husband rushed in. He gasped, then choked on the sight of her. Her body had begun to swell grotesquely, unnaturally. Her belly distended as if something inside her was pushing outward, trying to escape. Her skin rippled with motion beneath, like rising dough. "I can't eat it," she sobbed. "I can't." Her voice broke off into a wet gag. Her stomach twisted, and in that moment, on the edge of collapse, Jenny turned toward the counter. The cake was there, perfect, gleaming, waiting. "No," she whispered, but her hand moved on its own. She crawled, barely breathing, and grabbed a handful on the top layer. Her mouth opened. The frosting hit her tongue. A moan escaped her lips, half pleasure, half horror, as she devoured the piece with shaking hands, one bite, then another, and then another. "I can't," she cried, even as she swallowed. It was too late. Then her body gave out. Not all at once, not with violence. She ruptured slowly, horribly. Soft, wet, horrific. She split along her sides like oven-baked sponge, frosting oozing from the cracks, blood mixing with sugar and skin. And there, nestled in the pool of ruin, was the book. The pages no longer showed a recipe, just a single line in gold. At the very back of the book: "To seek beauty without restraint is to dine with ruin." Well, traveler, some books end in triumph, others in tragedy. This one ends with a warning. If you ever find The Devourer's Delight, bound in rose velvet and warm to the touch, leave it on the shelf. Do not read it. Do not bake it. And above all, do not taste it. The sweetness does not last. And until next time, my traveler, come back soon. I'll be here in the dark with another tale from the shelves. And don't forget to mind the shadows. They like to linger. And beware of the whispers in the dark.